What's up, guys? This is Sam. Welcome back to Twink Revolution.
Here with Sam and Gian, and today we've got a very special guest. We've got David, One Thin Line from Twitter. Hey, David, how you doing?
Hey, I just felt a tickle in my prostate.
Oh, yeah, that's what that is.
Some real love.
That's the twink revolution is happening to you.
You know I'm not normally into twinks.
No.
Per se, no shade or anything, nothing. But that might have been the first twink sex I've ever had, and it was kind of oral only.
Yeah, amazing.
Oral only.
Oral, yeah.
Oral.
So you are our first guest on the show, and also happily, a non-twink. I think it would be fair to say you do not identify.
Yeah, I identify as a non-twink.
Yeah. That's
Actually, when I came out to my parents, it was a fraught evening. I had been out. We lived in the East Bay. I'd gone off to the city on my own. They didn't know where I was. They called the police even because I had given them an alibi, and that alibi called to see if I was around, and I hadn't actually set up my alibi. So they were like, I don't know where the hell my son is, blah, blah, blah. So I got home, got at the kitchen table. I was like shaking and nervous, and I had no idea how they were going to take it. And my parents were like, well, where were you? And I was like, God, I think this is the moment I actually have to tell them. And I had been wearing, because this is like the 90s, I had one of those like pink triangle rainbow flag pins or something. I threw across the table, and I was like, does she know what this means? Like, I've been wearing this. Like, what? And I said, yeah, I've known this for a while now, but I specifically do not like hairless, boyish men. And I just need you guys to know that.
Yeah, so how did they take it?
My mom cried.
Yeah. She was like, you will never feel the touch of a lithe, nubile young man.
Yeah. They took away my Edmund White books, and I wasn't allowed to read Lord of the Flies after that.
Oh, damn, that's cool.
It was rough.
Yeah, that's rough.
And then I found a bunch of, bears who took me in. So
good. Well, thank goodness. Yeah, well, we're delighted you're here. So that's not all we wanted to talk about, though, today, is it turns out the tanning industry is killing the gays.
Yeah. Stanford University just did a study saying, basically proving the gay community is being targeted by the tanning industry, and that's a problem because gay men are 6 times more likely to use tanning salons and twice as likely to get skin cancer.
Are you saying gay men are dying of being too gorgeous?
Yes,
pretty much.
Tanning
too
equals
delectable,
death.
too crispy.
They're dying
caramely.
as leather bags.
Yeah, so I thought this was sort of an interesting story, only because, the fact that they managed to control for, higher rates of smoking and mental illness and all other, cause of morbidity or whatever, cool. But also they found, there's populations with more than 10% of gays had more tanning salons than those with less than 10%. So, I don't know, I don't tan, personally.
You love tanning.
No, I do it in the sun. I'm like a normal person.
That's bad, too, Gian.
Sure, but, if you're going to die, at least die on your feet, with your boots on.
Yeah, my first thought was, of course, to blame the gays, because that's usually my first thought.
Yeah.
And I do at all times anyway. Because, obviously going in for an artificial or artificially induced tan strikes me as a bit dowdy and maybe a little out of off trend.
It does feel a little early 90s, doesn't it?
Right. Yeah, it does. It does. Especially if you're going for that maybe it's a sort of daddy look. It's not the daddy look that's in right now, but the sort of bikini tan line thing that. But but actually, it's funny. I had just conducted. Well, I saw that you guys sent me this article ahead of time, and I did some of my own research, and I found that another industry that's targeting gay men with cancer, possibly even more aggressively, is the loud bar industry. I don't know if you've noticed that.
The what?
Loud bars. So, I mean, it is actually no joking matter that alcohol is strongly linked to various cancers and ill health effects.
Good stuff. We say as we as Sam and I cram alcohol into our faces.
I'm far more virtuous, and
I'm
teetotaling. But no, it is hilarious to me because, we at some point have to have a reckoning with alcohol, as we have had with tobacco and other things. And the gays aren't so good at holding back on their imbibing.
No. No, meth certainly was.
And then I do feel, especially here in San Francisco and the Castro, there sometimes is a feeling that you're taking a community that sort of very understandably already has a lot to deal with in terms of rebuilding a sense of self-esteem and self-worth, and a community is probably already given to a lot of self-medication, and certainly there are better or worse ways of doing that, and you have a lot of these bars and whatnot that are just aggressively pushing over pouring and
two for one is certainly the cliche trick. I did sort of think about this as like, we talk a lot about our current age of like late capitalist hellscape, right? As diseases of despair, as what's sort of killing people, right? It's suicide, it's alcoholism, it's opioids, it's
posting.
It's posting the bad takes.
Posting bad takes.
Right. Yeah, and these are truly, right, the diseases of despair. And if you think about the gay community at large, right, we're sort of always, out ahead on diseases of despair. You could sort of look at,
we're
meth
out
in the
ahead
90s
on despair.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's sort of the bellwether of whatever is hideously impacting people and leading them down these paths, right? We've always been really good at it and being first to the mark. I think
which is kind of heartbreaking because in some ways, a lot of what's collapsing is the sort of only briefly properly hegemonic model of masculinity and traditional marriage and whatnot, sort of Eisenhower era idea of, you've got a breadwinner man who's married to the one woman and they have kids, and suddenly you've got this
tops and bottoms.
Exactly. This nuclear family, and the wife is meant to provide all the society and sort of social comfort for the man. The man is compensated by society by getting a good paycheck and whatnot, and that's been disintegrating for a long time. The model is problematic for many other reasons. Obviously, there's a lot of what certain lib friends of mine might call toxic masculinity, which I find it sexy masculinity, but it's interesting for gay men, I think, because being gay, I think if nothing else, what it does is it tends, or at least certainly in my generation, I'm a bit older than you guys, it shoves you right out of that model, right? Yeah. Like in some ways, you find yourself unable to conform to what this image of manhood is supposed to be, which is, just thumpingly heterosexual, at least in that model. And there's a real chance, and there was a real chance to question more than just that setup, and sort of question, well, what is it that we're after with relationships in the first place? What are we doing in terms of intimacy with each other? And I think there's a period of time where there was a lot more of that in gay communities, in sort of the gay liberation movement. And then we moved into sort of both the AIDS crisis and sort of a different tack in the 80s and 90s, modeled more on sort of the civil rights movement and sort of seeing gays as a protected class. And then, of course, the big push for gay marriage, which, I'm pretty sympathetic to the idea that is by and large a regressive or kind of a reactionary move, despite there's some nuance to that, obviously, but
no, I think you just come out as a raging homophobe.
Yeah,
on the show we have the exclusive,
and now we have Pete Buttigieg. So yes. I don't know, I forgot what even prompted all that.
That is sort of where we were leading up to. Okay. Is why are the gays so basic in their politics? So Chasten and Pete Buttigieg sort of are a model of essentially gay heterosexuality,
absolutely,
monogamy and whatever. That's not saying
gay hypernormativity.
Gay hypernormativity, that's a good word, but just fucking normies. And good on them, whatever, the aspirations of political office obviously have certain demands, but from standing, Bill Clinton through to Obama, Hillary, Warren, Kamala, right? Why is it the gays always sort of line up on the most basic bitch version of politics?
Well, I wonder how much of that is that the gays, or is that the gays we know? Is that the other sort of affluent
I'm sure it's coastal professional class gays, but also they are the ones that work in media and perhaps as cultural carriers and, end up on the Queer Eyes.
Yeah.
So, do we think there's some affinity here? Is this a sort of an attempt to move into the mainstream? I've never quite been able to grasp it. What is the appeal?
I'd like to maybe introduce you to a good friend of mine who wrote a real good book you should check out sometime.
Uh-oh.
Its name is Beard Daddy. And that book is, it's in any number of books. But but I think we're dealing with the C word here big time, which is...
I don't think you'd say that on air.
Cock?
Okay.
Which is class, right? This is all about class. And really the difference between a very contingently useful identity politics move and that versus actual class position. Mm-hmm. And many gay men have found themselves in advantageous material circumstances and are simply supporting a politics that supports their material position. Now that the identity fight has pretty much been won, Weirdly, one on the sort of lowest table stakes or the lowest stakes, right? Because kind of going back to what I was saying before, I've read up on this more now, and it's fascinating to find that around the time of Stonewall, right, there was I don't know if it was the primary push or valence, but there was a very strong sense, and this was at a time when generally a sort of class-based, working class aware left was much more in the air as far as anyone kind of being on the left of the spectrum. But there was a sense of the gay liberation movement as it was known, and obviously that, I think, that term really included a lot. And actually, given where this is going, I think it makes sense. But there was a sense of it being not, oh, here we are, this group of people who are inherently gay, sort of like those with certain colors of skin who are being discriminated against because of something they can't change. There was a different tack, which was our ability to gather and meet each other and have sex with each other in these different ways is something that actually everyone should have the right to do. So in other words, the idea was that there was a gay liberation movement that was meant to be connected to a broader human liberation, i.e. the liberation of human sexuality under capitalism and whatnot. And it, at that point, connects sort of what the gay experience does, or gay identity, or however you want to put it, is it sort of interrupts this hegemonic heterosexuality, which had become oppressive for everyone, really. And certainly the ruling classes didn't really have to abide much by it, right? This was more deployed either as a way to give virtue to sort of the rising affluent middle class and justify their position, or to discipline the working class. So we had a chance there to actually make this not so much about an ontology, like an identity that we're going to fix on, but rather a move to say, look, let's just at some point say sexuality should not be legislated in this way, and it shouldn't be curtailed. And it was a big counter to sort of American Protestant Puritanism. And we've lost that. We've lost so much of that.
So, sodomy for all.
Sodomy for all.
Yeah, it is a much more interesting take, right? And certainly if you look historically, you would see that so much of the criminalization of homosexual behavior, particularly in Britain and sort of prior to maybe, say, the 1950s, was usually about the transgression of class, right? Where it would be working class rough trade being picked up by, gentlemen of certain breeding.
Wasn't that the deal with Oscar Wilde?
Certainly, that was what he sort of went down for. And even Alan Turing, to a certain degree, was sort of a victim of the fact that this was not the good-natured roughhousing of the plebs, nor was it maybe the spirited, romping of shitheads who went to private schools.
Right.
It's a transgression across, and the fact that this is a phenomenon and behavior that's found that transcends all social class has always been kind of dangerous. I think that's where it starts, right?
And I feel like maybe I don't want to just like read into this too much, but I mean, there's this sense, and I think it has worked out this way, whether or not it was intended. I feel like it was sort of sniffed out intuitively by the powers that be, but certainly post World War II, there was a move in many senses to kind of counter working class solidarity and to counter men kind of coming together with some sense of fellowship and brotherhood, both in terms of men coming back traumatized and shell-shocked from World War II. That was sort of shuffled under the rug, the creation of the suburbs and the nuclear family, atomized family, and the way those things were designed, kind of keeping men from cavorting or seeing each other as comrades, right? I think a big threat from homosexuality is exactly that it is men finding fellowship with each other and finding intimacy with each other. Mm-hmm. And a lot of that sort of toxic male model of being in competition with other men at all times and putting up all these defenses, whether intentional or not, perfectly serves a ruling order that requires division, atomization, counter solidarity. Honestly, in that sense, and much as I am very itchy about liberal identity politics, I think it is complete garbage.
Wow, we got Zizek on the show. What a guest.
Yes, I claim. There really is something there is a political potency when you connect something that is about solidarity and finding, basically countering all that sort of liberal, i.e. capitalist atomization, with that which brings us back together. And I mean, honestly, if a good fuck in a hot tub with your best buds accomplishes that, I'm all for it. And I will add my contact information after the episode.
That is, we are really kind of just a dating service for our learned guests.
I thought that was clear.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's how we got David on the show. Yeah. For the record, was we said, look, we will direct the men with body hair to him.
Thank you.
But I think you made a lot of good points kind of touching on the class nature, and I feel like the liberal establishment has worked tirelessly to isolate the gay community, and you can really see that in the lack of solidarity towards gays abroad as well. I mean,
absolutely.
Just recently, a twink in Saudi Arabia at the age of 23
always comes back to twinks.
Was sentenced to, I believe, 3 years of prison for posting a shirtless picture, and according to Saudi law, he was basically the equivalent of naked.
I saw the picture, I thought there was a visible body hair.
Yes.
I thought that wasn't
on his head.
Issue?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
No, I feel like people are a little bit euphemistic about this. I mean, it is it's a sort of codedly slightly sexy shot. It is shot from behind. He is sort of leaning coquettishly over a
definitely
bouncer.
Like this cake is covered right now,
yes. But he is wearing. I mean, so yeah, he's wearing swimming shorts and is near a body of water. So
he's hot.
He's rocking it. Like good on him. And he was. There seems to be a lot to this, but I think the point we struck upon and why we want to mention it at all is. It came perfectly off the back of this sort of Instagram revolution going on in like travel vloggers, right?
And he kind of actually touched about it. In his post, he talked about the contradictions of social media in the country, where Western visitors can do a lot more than the native population, and the hypocrisy of these progressive so-called like Instagram and like social media stars coming there to promote the country while totally ignoring that the country is heavily repressive and has a death penalty for gays still. So.
Yeah, the juxtaposition was not lost on anyone. I think that there was photos on Instagram of women in bathing suits in a pool. This is coming off the back of women not needing to wear the abaya anymore.
If you're foreign.
If you're foreign. And so people kind of celebrating this with this whole like, oh my God, so glamorous, look at us here. And then this poor kid, right, posting an incredibly tame shot where he was sort of feeling himself and going to jail for 3 years.
Yeah, I just think it's actually really interesting knowing the consequences that he was still willing to be so open about his sexuality and brand of like posting sexy shots and stuff like that while living in Saudi Arabia. Kind of just shows being sexy on Instagram can have praxis.
Right.
Yeah. So it's free Suhail is the hashtag you can go find if you want to see what's going on there. But yeah, good on him for kind of standing up against it instead of saying, "Hey, I'm not gonna apologize for this." But sucks for him that he is now imprisoned in Saudi Arabia.
Mm-hmm.
I think I would have to remind everyone though that. And I think Mayor Pete would agree with me on this, that Saudi Arabia is one of our most important allies.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so none of this actually happened.
And one of Hillary Rodham Clinton's major backers was Saudi kings, so that's pretty fun.
Absolutely. Well, they've recently allowed some women to drive, so I think that's pretty much like a Beyonce concert in terms of progress.
Yeah. No, the rainbow flags have been rolled out.
I mean, what more do you need?
I guess just another hypocrisy or contradiction is how this had such little coverage, but you see a massive coverage of the women taking off their veils in Iran, which...
Yes, on the topic of hypocrisy, everyone's favorite Republican congressman, or former congressman, Aaron Schock.
Yeah, from Illinois. He was found at another event, which was called... What the fuck was it called? Ostbahnhof, which is some, like, gay party in L.A., and everyone wanted to make news about it, despite he's no longer relevant. Like, he has no power anymore.
Right. The sense of sort of schadenfreude or whatever about, like, the fact that he keeps being caught despite being a rabidly sort of anti-gay in his public life. And, this already blew over. I just thought it was funny, because it is funny, but the shock people experience at like, but how can a gay person be bad?
Go to SF. You'll find lots of them.
Yeah, I've never encountered that at all.
No.
Wonderful.
No gays can have shitty politics.
One of the things that is amazing about all gay men is how kind they are to each other. Mm-hmm. Certainly speak well of each other. I mean, the sense of community and just calm maturity that you get walking into any Castro bar.
Yes, queen.
I think it's worth pointing out to the listeners that we've had to pause a couple times because the neighbors are recycling, which is lib as fuck.
Yes.
And obviously violence against some mostly young, put upon gay leftists, which, I mean, certainly we're marginalized for that position.
Yeah,
and this is violence.
Yeah. No, this is literal violence to me. And yet again, I think it sort of shows that's why we just like to sort of burn our plastic trash in the middle of the street.
Recycling is exploitative labor. We're not being compensated for our menial tasks.
It's true.
But no, getting back to Aaron Schock, I think it's really funny that every article about him is like viewed as a scandal when this guy's already come out like to his family.
Oh, did he actually come out?
He did. He was outed actually.
Yeah, he's outed, but I wasn't sure whether he actually acknowledged it.
Yeah, I told his family.
Oh. Is he the same one who built the Downton Abbey thing in his office?
Oh,
this guy.
That guy.
Yeah.
I was just quietly pretending that I knew what you were talking about.
That's okay.
I remember that guy.
That's kind of what we do too.
But
wow, yeah. So, and then Downton Abbey, of course, was, as you pointed out, Gian, like basically produced by a fucking right-winger.
Did I point that out?
Like Tory? I think you were the one who told me that.
No, I don't think it was, but
someone told me.
It sounds like an accusation I might level against prestige television, but I don't think I knew that.
Downton Abbey specifically was produced by. I guess we don't know.
Well, I mean,
it makes sense. Right?
I would happily say it has a sort of reactionary tone to it.
Oh, absolutely.
The certain hat tip to the upstairs downstairs distinction is only sort of made in service of going back telling the interesting stories about the rich people. So no wonder Aaron Schock has bad politics. He watched fucking Downton Abbey, and so he became a Republican.
He would have decorated the office as Hamilton's office if he had had a chance.
Yes,
totally.
Yes. Proud American, our best American hero.
The blackface that would have happened.
Oh, God, if only. God. Yeah. That's a missed opportunity there.
Yeah. I think the funniest thing, though, is in every article, they just put, like, one small paragraph about, like, money laundering of him, like, I believe of $46,000, which he's paid back completely to, like, taxpayers, but it was just, like, this money that was never accounted for.
Yeah, he was corrupt.
It's like, these people put in articles that it's another hit, but I don't think it's a genuine attack on him, because the real issue is he was a closeted gay man who did bad things to gays, while we ignore the whole material suffering he caused on the vast majority of the population. Like, why the focus on that when...
Well, because liberals only know how to parse politics in terms of pointing out hypocrisy. This is the legacy of Jon Stewart, right? We observe the hypocrisy, and then we go, what?
Well, you lose a lot of interest in looking behind the curtain if you're constantly changing the color or updating the decoration on the curtains.
Yes.
Right? That's liberalism.
Yep.
I mean, the whole fact people care so much he's going to, like, gay strip clubs or gay parties. It's like, why do you care? Like, what power does he have right now? It's marginal at best. And he was still pretty irrelevant when he did have any power. Like, no one knows anything about what he did besides, like, the gay thing.
And the corruption.
They wanted to out him.
And the Downton Abbey thing. That definitely...
But it played into the whole gay
gay.
character. His outfits were... He just like, oh, those are gay outfits. Oh, his office is gay. And it's like...
Well,
okay.
I mean, so the point being... his politics are not that dissimilar from Pete Buttigieg's. He just has not quite managed to keep his image as polished.
I mean, he's a neo-lib, like 99% of like Bay Area gay is.
Yeah.
Like, the only difference is he had some culture war clashes, which he might have changed.
Pete Buttigieg has managed the polish of the metallic Terminator and Terminator 2 at this point. Like, I don't know if you saw in the last debate, I mean, that guy is just reaching new levels of sociopathy.
Yes, he's robotic.
He's terrifying.
Yeah.
I mean, at least Aaron Schock's embracing, like, what's provided as gay culture. I mean, he's going to the circuit parties and shit. Pete Buttigieg just, like, fostering all the things that have marginalized gays, like conservative Christianity and the heteronormative behaviors of, like, relationship status.
Yeah, and eating pizza competitions or whatever, competitions to go and watch Hamilton with Chasten. I'd
like to pronounce it Chasten.
Chasten. Yeah, Chasten Buttigieg.
That was a very horrifying moment for me on Twitter last week.
I'm sorry. I made that
phrase.
too.
Like, contest to see Hamilton with... What was the other phrase that used to be the worst phrase ever spoken, like Hamilton?
BuzzFeed Hamilton Slack.
BuzzFeed Hamilton Slack. Well, we've done that one better.
We have, yes.
We've updated that.
Yes. Donate to Pete Buttigieg to win an evening to see Hamilton with Chasen is, horrifying.
It can't be more on the nose.
Suey fuel.
It can't be more on the nose of the guy who is basically a Republican gay, as you said, who's emblematic of this horrible... suppressive normativity, all this other, garbage, is married to a man named Chasten.
That's some private school fuck there.
Seriously, Buttigieg, he's always going on about, not only his military service, but how important the church is, and how problematic universal provision of basic services and goods is. And what horrifies me the most about him, because he doesn't have a shot at all.
No, thankfully, he's a non-entity.
But it's more my Facebook friends. Facebook is I don't have conservative friends or family, which I don't know if that's good or not. I mean, I guess it's good. But Facebook is where I check in on the libs, right?
Yeah.
I have some good lefty friends at this point. Some of whom really did sort of come left after 2016. We all know plenty of those people. But when I need to check in on the sort of smug libs, it's Facebook. And the gay friends who post, encomiums to Buttigieg.
Breathless,
it's,
right? I mean,
just
breathless
it
tributes to this man.
It rankles me. Though I should also remember that they positionally, as sort of liberal Californians, really have no meaning electorally. Right? And they're also just sort of sadly representing a group that it would be wonderful to win over, but probably structurally is not crucial right now.
Oh yeah, who cares what they think? I mean, and I like dunking on Pete Buttigieg, even though he's a political non-entity, because he feels like he's sort of our responsibility.
Yeah.
People, the good lefties we know cannot be as mean to him as we can.
Oh yeah, we get to. It's that's why. Yeah. We're all good faggots here.
Yes, exactly. That's the thing. We can call him a stupid faggot every week, and we do, and we shall do it.
I love that word, by the way. I think I was saying that the other day. It's a wonderful word.
Yeah,
we reclaim that.
We don't use it enough. I don't get it screamed at me from cars often enough.
Faggots? I would never call people just that word. I don't even want to use it right now in his company because he doesn't deserve it.
Yeah,
it's a term of affection.
He hasn't earned it yet.
Yes.
Yeah, but you're right. I mean, it is true. It's sort of like, the liberal chant of, I'm making clap emoji with my hands right now, but, believe all women, elect women, believe men, believe black people of color.
Black girl magic.
Black girl magic and all that shit. It just doesn't stand up to the slightest scrutiny, right? Because, first of all, yay, I like the idea of certainly not disbelieving women simply for being women or disbelieving people of color, right? That's sort of the good side of that. But then you have obviously AOC endorsing Bernie Sanders, which should have given a bunch of woke libs an aneurysm.
Well, some of them did definitely stroke out briefly.
Yeah. Which is delightful.
It was good.
Just the Bernie campaign in general being led by the genuinely amazing Nina Turner.
Yes.
Both black and, as far as I know, of feminine persuasion.
Yes, yeah, to my eyes.
And according to the rule set, is to be believed. She must be believed.
Yes. Yeah, she keeps saying the wrong thing, though.
Well, see, that's not belief.
That's the problem.
That's not belief.
No, it's
and
not.
we're gays, so
what?
I think as a marginalized group, it is mandatory that you believe everything we say without question, because we've hit an identity signifier.
Yeah. Yes. And so to the extent that I am willing to dunk on the guy all day, but I will give a little bit of leeway to those who maybe have a sort of squishy sentimentality to the idea that there could be a gay president. And
I'm sure there already have been. But.
Well, sorry, an openly gay president. And I understand why Buttigieg sort of locks into that, because if you perhaps came to political awareness in the 90s, Pete Buttigieg sort of locks into your idea of what does a good president look like? The problem is that shit just doesn't fly anymore.
Right.
Bill Clinton ruined all of that, right? Because he was just absolutely pathological and did not fit the mold, despite being kind of Ivy League educated and all that bullshit, right? Mm-hmm. he was not the sort of like, well, I'm just a good American and I, go to church every Sunday kind of guy. He'd never locked into that mold. And we've not had a president who fit that mold since.
Yeah.
George W. Bush, right, was doing cocaine and drinking for most of his sort of adult life, basically, before becoming president. Like
Party boy.
So Buttigieg, like, who was he impressing? The Reagan Democrats are all like in hospice care.
Yeah, doesn't it feel like he's overshooting the mark of not letting the purse out of his mouth, as they say? Yes. Like it really seems like he's pitching his voice down and butching it up as much as possible.
What do you mean?
Like, yeah, it's almost like, let me apologize to some degree. I mean, I've seen people make that comment about Obama, that like in order to sort of get the right optics running as a black man for president of the United States, he sort of had to counter whatever ideas one might have or stereotypes.
Yeah, he had to play on making him seem safe.
Yeah,
exactly.
Hanging out with Joe Biden,
telling young black men to pull up their pants.
Yes.
And I mean, I think Buttigieg is doing something very similar with the gay.
Yeah,
right. But it's an apology that his base has neither asked for nor is impressed by.
Yeah, and I think you're right. His politics are well past their prime. I mean, it's just we're all past it, and certainly, well. We the enlightened people, but also younger generations. I mean, I think it's just so I get where Elizabeth Warren is running on a progressive sounding platform at this point, because it's quite clear where the winds are rushing.
Yeah, she's at least a better politician.
Makes sense.
In that
This is something
regard.
that I was shocked. Well, maybe not shocked, but I actually thought Hillary Clinton in 2016, seeing what had happened with Bernie's campaign, would have sort of picked that up, even in the most reptilian, calculated way, the most cynical way, run on a populist message. And I just think she is just incapable of thinking that way.
Yeah,
it is in her genetic code that she cannot not means test something.
Right. And so with Warren, I think, is exactly what I expected. What I would have expected a different Hillary Clinton to have done, where it's you don't quite buy it. It feels like it's just sort of saying the right thing to sort of pick up on the zeitgeist. Mm-hmm. And then you've got, when you have someone, and most of the other candidates of note are sort of playing along, apart from Biden, with a lot of that. But with Buttigieg, it's just like, what are you even doing? Like, he's young, he should know better. But now he's campaigning.
Gramscian professor, So.
Yeah, well, that's the best part, right? Yeah, he's he and Kamala are both
the children of Marxists.
Failed red diaper babies.
Yeah.
red diaper
do
failed
better,
children.
Old left generation. My God. But yeah, it's just. Where I don't understand where he's coming from on that, and now he's even campaigning more openly against Medicare for all.
Yeah,
right. What possible gain could there be for him here? He's not even the best of the candidates at shitting on Medicare for all.
No.
Absolutely.
That's not even a position. That is a position that is well occupied by people well ahead of him. It seems like bad politics. If you were just, as you say, reptilian and cynical. Mm-hmm. He could pick some other angle.
Yeah, his whole platform is milquetoast, especially when you take into the fact that we've already had a gay president. We have Trump, who has a relation with Putin, which the libs have already recognized. Like, why aren't they supporting that? Why are you being homophobic, libs?
True. It is
we have a gay president.
Yeah.
Well, he's poly.
Yeah, he's poly too. He's enough throuple of a woman and a man and a foreign man, so he's actually internationalist.
Yeah,
those diapers, they're not actually due to senescence. It's just scene. It's a scene play. It's an extended scene.
Oh yeah.
So he's kinky as well. I don't think we need to kink shame.
No, I don't think so either.
So yet again erasing the conservative gay audience by the liberal establishment.
Yeah, I think Aaron Schock and Donald Trump are better representatives of modern gay culture than Pete Buttigieg.
At least Trump is funny and charismatic.
Trump is hilarious.
Buttigieg is
he's funny.
Like a robot with horrible policies. Like, he has no excitement about him at all.
What do you mean? I think we need to split the difference.
How are you gonna pay for it? I'm sorry. Are we having the Republican versus...
That's very aggressive. I just think we need to stop fighting here. Yeah. This is why the electorate doesn't trust our podcast, is that we haven't come to find the middle.
It's so hard to talk about him too much because I want to enjoy my own sexuality again.
Yes. Yeah, nice. Yeah, I will never fuck again now after this.
And his whole politics is basically austerity and neoliberalization, which, as we're seeing globally right now,
there's nothing gayer than getting fucked in the ass by the IMF.
Yeah, it is in vogue, certainly.
Just in the last few weeks, we've had 3 or is it 4? 4 new countries.
At least. I don't know. The whole world
break out You have Lebanon breaking out against austerity and sectarian governments. We have Chile against public transit affairs. We have Iraq against corruption in the government. Catalonia over leaders being arrested. Ecuador for gas hikes. And then there's also the Bolivian, which happened last night, which are not austerity strikes.
Bolivia for elections.
Right-wing strikes for austerity. And so the world's melting, and those are just a few of the countries. There's many more, like Haiti and Algeria and Sudan, who are all fighting against austerity as well.
Yeah, I mean, and it's sort of interesting, right? Because David's microphone right now, the listener cannot see, but is actually held up by a stack of the 3 volumes of Capital by Marx and Engels, I guess. He gets a look in. And you know, there are some predictions made in this particular volume written, 150 odd years ago.
I hope you don't mind. I just figured the fresh cum stains would match the ones that were already there.
Oh yes, no, that is a communal communal copy of Capital. Right. Yeah. We've collectivized the
But I guess what I found most interesting about seeing these austerity strikes across the country is just how strong the solidarity is. I mean, Lebanon had a quarter of its whole population out in the streets fighting against the sectarian and austerity measure government. And instead of being like Extinction Rebellion and fucking over people, they had like a giant rave in like their town square in Beirut. I believe it was Beirut. It was some giant city in Lebanon. Or like in Chile, the students were using their passes to let everyone just go through and not pay the fares for public transit.
Hell yeah.
While you have Extinction Rebellion just the day after our last podcast, literally blocking public transit so workers couldn't get to work.
Yeah, the central line at rush hour, which if you know anything about London, is like already degrading and a horrible experience, and any interruption.
Didn't you know the only way to save the planet is through abject narcissism?
No. That's true, and they are saving it by that standard.
God.
Yeah. And I thought the hand wringing that followed that was interesting, right? Where they were pulled off the top of the train, where they were holding some insufferable banner and sort of dancing around. They had camera crews and shit, and the commuters in a kind of a pretty working class bit of London were not impressed with the delays to their ability to get to work. And there's actually quite a kind of tugged at my heartstrings. There's a woman quite audible on the video just saying, hey, I really need to get to work. And with desperation, right? With the desperation that only capitalism can inspire in a person, where this person's life is being ruined by this.
I think it might behoove the left, insofar as they're serious at fomenting a working class-led revolution against capitalism and whatnot, to make the case to the actual working classes, to actually make their case appealing, rather than what we would like you to help us do is something that will make your life horrible and shitty in every way. And I mean, this is sort of the problem with the left, such as it is, being just, in little academic or intellectual bubbles, mostly disconnected from any actual working class foundation or anything, and it just becomes a sort of moral posturing, right? And sort of like, the smugness and purity politics does land as a critique at that point, because it becomes more about a kind of going back to sort of an American Protestant Puritanism, and a sort of like, how morally pure can I be? How much can I deprive myself and make sure that that's the program that everyone has to follow, right? Whether it's...
Well, it's not really clear whether Extinction Rebellion are even of the left, or whether they're... what is it? Is it Orwell talked about the sort of juice drinkers, sandal wearing?
Yes. Okay, well, fine.
They're liberals.
The performing as left. Yeah, they're liberals.
They're liberals with many of the cultural signifiers learned from what is sort of the remnants of the radical left, as much as it sort of existed after the collapse of the Soviet Union.
I think maybe the bigger thing to say is just like, that kind of self-denial and puritanism is an ideology of liberalism, of capitalism. I mean, the left needs to shake it off as quickly as possible. And given that we all grew up in liberalism, right? And I mean that in the broad sense of, pro-markets and capitalism and everything, the idea of sort of the sovereignty of the individual and all of that sort of thing. And we all grew up mired in it, and it takes a lot to shake it off, right? It takes a lot, and it takes sort of constant vigilance to sort of be watchful of that ideology and thinking of everything in terms of commodification and competition, but also of this sort of just this morality, right? This especially American thing of this sort of moral posturing and sanctimony and scolding, right?
Well, I mean, I think that it ties into even at the that when sort of pushed up to a national or supranational levels of like the European Union, right? Is sort of austerity politics. It's always the idea of like we must tighten our belts and suffer a little bit to do the good thing. Whatever the good thing is, and that's Extinction Rebellion is precisely a local manifestation of that with sort of activistism roots, right? But certainly, Chile is a good example of like death by 1,000 cuts. It's not about the transit fares. It is about the fact that the legacy of Pinochet and Milton goddamn motherfucking Friedman are still being felt there, right? That pensions are not enough to live on.
The government
water
right
is private.
It's right wing still. Same for like Lebanon and all these other countries you mentioned.
These are the crises of capitalism, and they don't necessarily entail that the working class is developing class consciousness. It's just that these are the inevitable result of capitalism doing what capitalism does.
I mean, their material and their outcome is because this is directly impacting their living standards. Well, Extinction Rebellion is completely counteracting all of that. I mean, why would you target people who need to work to survive? And for one, public transit, like, that's the thing that's preventing people from driving cars. Like, we want to start driving.
We want people to use public transit more.
It makes no sense, and they were defending it. I saw a few posts from Extinction Rebellion UK members saying basically, like, you're all just drones in the machine, fight against it. And it's like, you have no spatial or material awareness of, like, how this system works. Like, if they stop, they starve and die. Like,
they know they're like literally outside, Canning Town Station or whatever. There's like corporate headquarters or giant corporations. They could go maybe make a nuisance of themselves over there.
Like on Parliament, I don't know, go do something.
There are so many other vectors for being irritating in ways that might actually trouble anybody except like working people who are taking public transit.
Like, I wouldn't doubt if these are just like primarily like trust fund like children.
Well, one of the leaders, she was sort of pinged for taking a rather lavish holiday. I think on maybe on Extinction Rebellion dime. I don't know that for sure, but I want to say like Aruba or something. Could have been anywhere, but somewhere where one would have taken an airplane, for example. Those planet destroying terrible machines, and doing an ayahuasca trip and exploring her sexuality or something.
Did she
it was
find
like
herself?
I think she was finding herself. She was eat, pray, loving in the midst of all of this going on. It's sort of like, and I understand these smears are cheap, but the problem is these are the terms in which these people present themselves.
Like, I don't like Extinction Rebellion. You're like Antifa. You're pathetic and you're useless to the left.
Well, yeah, it's either cosplay or it's actually antithetical to any leftist solidarity.
It's liberalism. I can't say it. That's a difficult word to say in any sort of it's liberal.
It is liberalism.
But it is. I mean, we have to start recognizing it for what it is, right? As soon as it's about your own personal brand, your own narcissism, when you're lacking, and I think, that comes from just lacking any material analysis, any sense of structure, of power structure, of where the levers of power are, where you can get the sand and the gears and whatnot. If you lack that, all you fall back on is sort of the dominant hegemonic ideology, which is liberalism, which is the idea of sort of personal expression and, do the moral thing, right? As soon as you're in that domain of sort of personal moralism, you're in the domain of liberalism. Which is, honestly, is something I try and make ironically on Twitter frequently enough, which is that Twitter itself structurally, because it's about your personal posts and the likes and retweets you get, and you certainly get rewarded for hot takes and for conflict, is just fundamentally a liberal substrate, right?
But on that substrate, I must compliment you, David, that your takes are good. Your Twitter content is excellent. Your personal brand. Worth subscribing to.
Well, I'm only on this podcast to build my personal brand.
Good, that's what it's for. It's a vehicle for all of us.
I self-commodify to completion.
You can find yourself at a loss to explain these phenomena until you just go, wait a minute, this is just the same goddamn thing. This is just liberalism doing exactly what liberalism
it turns out having class analysis is probably something you said to me years ago, Gian. It turns out having class analysis in your back pocket is just so incredibly helpful. It's such a useful tool to understand so many things. And the nice thing about it is it's very easy to grok, right? It's very easy to understand. It's just that it's omitted very conveniently. It's omitted from education. It's omitted from any kind of sort of the discourse, as it were, in any kind of mainstream sense. I think exactly because it is so troubling to power.
Well, yeah, and I don't think I would have said back pocket. I think I probably
Front
would have
pocket?
used it in the terms of, perhaps, yeah.
As a bulging tool.
Yeah, as a
Can you
bulging
come at
tool.
any problem with your bulge of class analysis prominently displayed?
Well, no, I think it definitely it breaks your brain, right? I mean, I sort of I do not remember a time before that was sort of just how like my mind sort of was trained at some point, probably in my teenage years, to think about the world that way. And it becomes very difficult to not do it. And so it's a little bit red pilly, but also the problem is it can be a completely misdirected impulse, right? You can go down some very strange rabbit holes of being like, actually, I'm going to analyze, the argument I'm having with my significant other about the dishes in the class framework. You're like, no, not the time or place.
You're not into material analysis play?
I mean, yes, but I do in the bedroom is, not neither here nor there.
Not in the kitchen. We eat there.
Yeah.
With every thrust, I'm stealing surplus labor value.
Yes, many things about jobs and the means of production. If you catch my meaning,
some means. If you know what I'm getting at.
Just like one last point. Extinction Rebellion has still not apologized for
being awful and embarrassing,
for participating in regime change,
for not self-extincting
in Bolivia. I mean, they still worked with what did we call her last name? Janice.
Janice, yeah.
Who literally
not her name, but
the podcast is sponsored by the Good Place.
Yeah. So yesterday, the elections in Bolivia, which we talked about last week, which Extinction Rebellion played a role in, basically ended up in riots, primarily of like the wealthier, whiter classes of Bolivia. But all of the checkmark pundits and Janice were tweeting, if Evo Morales wins Bolivia, there'll be riots in the street, as if this was already pre-planned.
Yes, and then lo and behold, riots emerged.
The opposition leader, who was president prior to Evo Morales, who put the economy into rubble, literally just like, I'm not going to accept the results. And then you have Marco Rubio tweeting, this is fraud and we need to investigate it with the Organization of America or whatever.
American States or whatever.
Yeah. And like...
we need to investigate this using the CIA.
Yeah. So it's going to be a Venezuela situation.
Totally not related. Did you guys see... I just saw that downtown today. There was a really great sale on khakis at Banana Republic.
Yes.
Anyway, sorry. I don't follow this smart international stuff.
It's okay.
We
I just wanted to make that one point because it's just like an update.
We're going with this new designer, Evo Morales.
Yeah. He's one of our last daddies of the Latin American world.
I feel like the U.S. is sort of derelict in its duties right now because there hasn't been like some kind of violent coup.
Yeah.
Or
we're working on it.
Okay,
well, I mean, the problem is, if you recall, the sort of legacy of Iran-Contra was that the right came to believe that these particular sort of architects of global order, in the form of Elliot Abrams and John Bolton and all those other shitheads, Oliver North.
Sexy.
I would do all of them.
Yes, exactly. They're all daddy to me. But to the extent that these people were regarded as somehow worthy of loyalty because they took the fall for Bush Senior.
Yeah.
In Iran-Contra and shielded Reagan himself as well. So the fact that they demonstrate that loyalty means that they keep getting brought into these schemes in the Trump White House. The problem is they're deeply incompetent people. I mean, they fucked it up the last time.
Yeah.
They cannot organize a coup in Latin America, which honestly is just very embarrassing. It's not being able to get drunk in a brewery. Like you are embarrassing. And so the fact that they fucked up Venezuela, they're going to probably have a go in Bolivia, I suspect.
Oh, totally. I've already seen like so many of the EU establishment who tried to do the Venezuela coup for like the second or third time, I think it was.
Yeah. They keep
basically
doing it.
like do the same talking points. It's, the election was rigged and he's an authoritarian and all this like shit. Like, I believe I saw a tweet, Angela Merkel's been elected 4 times. Evo Morales is on his 4th term. What he just won. Like, why is that one okay and not the other? It's because one supports
I agree.
neoliberalism.
Angela Merkel is a dangerous, destabilizing force in the region and must be removed. I mean, the sort of the scenes in Bolivia, and you can only learn so much from Twitter, but of sort of people in business suits, faces squaring off with protesting, the failure of this election to be fair and just. I'm like, well, it is reminiscent of Venezuela, the first time that a U.S.-backed group attempted a coup against Chavez. Yeah. And it was essentially the petty bourgeoisie out in the streets, marching. They're not very good at it. Their chant game is not very good. They got to Chavez, dictador. Yeah. Which it doesn't really.
And the crazy thing is, they were like, we need to have a second round of checking the election, but they were burning ballot boxes and like polling places. So they're destroying the votes. Probably, I don't know exactly where it was, but I assume places where it's likely he won.
Well, I think also if he has been tarred with this sort of so easy accusation of being a sort of popular leader in Latin America, of being a lifetime dictator, he should really just go for it. I mean, it's sort of really if you're paying the price already, why not just commit to the cause?
Why not live up to it?
Yeah, exactly. You are paying the cost. You're already going to have sort of CIA wet work assassins coming after you for the rest of your life. So you might as well just go. Commit to the cause. Get a cigar.
How about full-blown socialism in Venezuela? Yeah. Let's do the real thing.
Yeah,
and Bolivia.
We'll do both. Yeah. How about in the world?
In the world. Wow, that's a tasty temptation.
Yeah, it's actually reactionary.
Enough of that rambling. We're gonna do a fun little game with our guest David. It's called Smash or Pass. So me and Gian have a short list each of ideas and people and concepts, and we want to know.
I just want to point out that smash or pass sounds very binary to me.
Yes, we are reinforcing the smash pass binary. I can't. To the problem with my accent, those words don't rhyme, so that's why Sam is introducing this segment.
Yeah. I just want to trouble that binary a little bit.
Yes. Smash or
pass. So
we'll
give you our things, and then just give us an answer and a little description of why you wanted to smash it or pass it.
All right.
Shall I go first?
Go for it, Sam.
So my one is Nathan J. Robinson, who writes at Current Affairs,
editor of Current Affairs.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, no, that's a good question. I think I'm gonna have to smash just because I have a sort of suddenly it makes me feel like a power top. I was
kind of a hate fuck.
Yeah, I want to fuck that fake accent out of the guy. And just I imagine him just constantly trying to slip the pork pie hat or whatever back on as he's bending over. Just just there's something about rumbling and ruffling that ridiculous persona.
Yeah, carefully curated affectation.
Yeah,
there.
Absolutely. Yeah, and to think I actually ever really thought much of the guy, but I mean he's not. I don't think he's all bad, but I think he's also. I mean anyone who's a non-Marxist socialist is suspect enough. But then when you add just Wes Anderson layers of twee affectation, you're gonna get fucked hard.
Well, I'm with you. I will say,
and this is consensual, by the way. I just want to make that really clear.
This is all in our hypothetical debate of smash or pass. This is all smash, assuming they consent.
Yes.
I do feel like some of the stuff that used to be in Current Affairs was a little more cultural, and some of the stakes felt a little bit lower. Was actually genuinely pretty funny and engaging, and
it was fun.
The Hamilton article still funny. I think it's still an enjoyable
anyone who wants
read.
To take down Hamilton,
exactly.
I'm there for it.
But the pork pie hat, fuck right off. All right, I have one, maybe in a similar vein. Smash or pass, chasten and or Pete Buttigieg in whatever configuration you like, alone, together.
It's going to be so easy to just smash all of these because of the brilliant power of power dynamics.
Same reason, right? You are.
In many ways,
you'd like to violate.
Fucking can be read as very loving or very kind of violent. So.
Right, you're going for a degradation angle.
It's a degradation angle, right? So it's just so fun, guys. It's almost like sexuality is a spectrum. You can really play with different energies. So. Yeah, that's a really hard pass, though. Yeah. If nothing else, just even if I would like to have sex again, and actually even you're asking that question has almost completely annihilated any human sexuality I would have. So, and also, I've already got my own sex toys and machines.
Yes.
Like if I want to fuck a machine,
it's true.
I know where to find one.
The robots are coming for you.
There you go. Literally.
Yeah.
Okay. My next one is former socialist leader of Yugoslavia, Tito. Smash or pass?
Do we have pics?
We can pull up the pics of Tito. Yeah.
Despite Tito's probably misguided market socialism, I kind of respect him going up against the Comintern, right? Sort of maybe dissenting a bit from the Soviets. Let's take a look. Okay, we're looking. Oh, he's kind of got the low-key thick dad thing. Maybe not low-key.
No, not at all low-key, actually.
Be careful. He's the former leader of the twink homeland, so...
That's a good point.
Yeah.
I mean, in that case, I would smash only to sort of build a bridge.
Yeah, in a loving way.
To the twink community.
Yeah.
That's. I think we could smash and then have a good conversation afterward about
You could maybe
market
deprogram some of the market socialism stuff there. My next one is German gay film director Rainer Fassbinder.
Oh, that's kind of a smash that's been going on for years now for me.
This was a gimme because it is your Twitter avatar.
It's my Twitter avatar, Fassbinder's my boy.
Yeah.
I think...
What's your favorite Fassbinder film?
Oh, God. That's one of those questions that can never be properly answered because it changes all the time. I don't know. There are a lot of amazing films. I mean...
Well, what would you recommend our listeners view first? Yeah,
fair enough. So, most relevant to our gay as fuck listeners would... Well, I mean, so many of his movies are really gay in one way or another, to be fair. I mean, the guy picked up on melodrama, the use of melodrama from Douglas Sirk, who made some kind of coded gay movies with like Rock Hudson and that sort of thing. But so they all kind of have that element. But I would say Fox and His Friends, which sort of is actually that's a great one because it has to do with Fassbinder himself plays a gay man who's sort of a working class fellow who comes into money, I think through the lottery, and sort of finds himself among the wealthy gays, right? And then sort of used and horribly mistreated by them. And it's a good example of Fassbinder sort of tackling the fact that, like, here's a marginalized group or a marginalized population that themselves are rift through with class contradiction and conflict. And a lot of his movies deal with kind of none of his characters having the right answer. There's nobody who's the moral avatar. From what I understand, part of his thinking was that to kind of just have a movie tell you what to think is doing a fascism, right? Like it's kind of it's a bit authoritarian. Like he really wanted to. I mean, and maybe it's a bit pretentious, but I think it's certainly laudable. He wanted to kind of treat the audience with respect and sort of say, "Hey, how about you feel empowered from seeing this?" And
I have, and what I at your recommendation, I went and watched Fox and His Friends and Querelle. It's a favorite of mine.
Querelle is really gay.
Yes, I mean fantastically
based on
so.
Jean Genet. But also weirdly not typical of a lot of Fassbinder. So it's not. I would never recommend starting there because it's very cold. And it's very arch.
Yeah,
and
but
actually,
I mean, maybe that worked for me.
That's me. If you're in the mood
cold
for that.
and arch.
Yeah, but I think like just at a glance, so the next hour we're going to be talking about Fassbinder.
Right, this is turned out Fassbinder review podcast.
But despite what you might think about him and his sort of intellectualism and everything, a lot of his movies are actually very humane, right? Yeah. They're not particularly arch or removed. So anyway.
Well, yeah. Anyway, so I said that was a gimme because I just couldn't let you come on without hearing your thoughts.
He's part of the
director. I'm very.
He's part of the central polycule. Yes. In my life.
Very good.
The core polycule.
So he is. That's a smash.
That's a big smash.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Okay, this is my last one. It's not a person. It's a concept. It's it's Deng Xiaoping's Chinese with socialism of Chinese characteristics.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Whew. That's those are waters that I'm fearful to wade into.
We're just trying to get you canceled by somebody for your appearance.
Can I do like tanky role play or cosplay?
You can do whatever you want.
It's your smash or pass.
I mean,
we're considered explicit in all the apps. So.
I think that's one where it it would be a potential smash after like a long courtship of, just really getting to know each other and where we're coming from and sort of, seeing each other's places, i.e. my apartment and his country, right?
Yeah.
And sort
it's
of,
important to really show each other around your space.
Dealing with some of those like factory suicide questions.
Yeah.
I mean, that can be a little bit of a turnoff unless you treat me right.
They're humane. They have nets for their suicide jumpers.
Yeah, I don't know. That's so that would be a you gotta come correct.
Right. Wouldn't be a sort of like speed dating situation.
Yeah,
it wouldn't be a quick sidewalk sale hookup.
It's just no Tinder swipe.
But if it went well, that could be a really substantial and loving relationship based on depth.
It's beautiful when a relationship can blossom into the sort of one of the world's largest economies. Yeah, I am always pleased.
It's my David is a partial tanky.
Yeah,
I mean it is
hard tanky.
Yeah.
Let's be clear, like that sort of like Soviet cosplay garb is kind of hot. Like not only would I wear like a Red Army
love
jacket.
The pictures we're going to take after this. After we're done recording.
Looking forward to that. And then what's the word for the Russian for hat? There's a word. Anyway,
the Russian fur hat.
But you know what? I know there's a lot of like fucking cosplay on Twitter and among the sort of well-graduated left. These days, it's kind of fetching. Like some of those, like the military outfits from the right side, right, or the left side, are
from the right side.
They're kind of hot.
Yeah,
they're kind of hot on any gender.
Yeah. There's nothing wrong with
if it's used properly. The aesthetics are on point to brand leftism.
Yeah,
they disquiet exactly the right people as well. It's exactly the right people who think a U.S. soldier, say Pete Buttigieg,
must always be saluted and filleted immediately.
Well, and they're like, well, he's completely unfuckable and robotic. But look, here's a picture of him in Iraq with a weapon and in uniform. Mm-hmm. So I shall immediately fillet him.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely.
So that is my policy towards the Red Army.
Yeah. Yeah, I think
I have similar amorous feelings.
I've actually been watching more like Soviet cinema recently. Not necessarily out of a tanky twitch or anything like that, but man, not only are those films beautiful, but there are some gorgeous people.
Yes,
captured there.
Not bad looking.
Not bad looking.
No, we definitely. I think it's the official position of this podcast that the sort of the Eastern Bloc in general produced
communism
quality
produces
looking
hotness.
I mean, Venezuela, when their socialism has people, women destroys, men destroys, Cuba.
Oh yeah,
like all of Eastern Europe.
Absolutely.
Like,
should we do the leftist gay version of that, like how to fuck different countries book?
Bang by Rush.
Banging. Yeah. Banging for revolution.
Yeah.
Okay, Revel bang. Well, I've got the next one.
There's more. Oh god.
Oh yeah, it keeps going.
Yeah. Last one.
All right, next one, smash or pass. No, there's a bonus round.
Boner round, listeners.
Boner
round.
All right, so smash or pass. The concept of being aspirational.
That's a pass. I'm not even going to try and be ironic on that one.
Yep, just pass. Cool. Let's
just pass. That's a boner killer.
Yeah.
Please do not aspire anywhere near me. That's don't do that.
This is just a section on the Tinder now.
Yeah.
And then the bonus round, just because I can't follow simple instructions when Sam said do 3.
Okay.
Is the people who turn up in your Facebook people you may know recommendations section.
Oh,
smash or pass.
Interesting. So generally speaking, if it was a smash, I would have already added them as a friend.
You would have taken your shot.
Most of the reason any of us add anyone as a friend or follow anyone on Twitter. I don't know about you guys, but like I pretty much follow people.
Well, my mother would beg to differ, but otherwise.
We can get into some of those issues later, but. I probably because I'd have to say pass because again they should be already in the circle of potential smash.
Right.
Yeah. Facebook should already have been on that.
That's very wise. I feel like that's sort of that's just good advice.
It's just good. Well, look, we can take off the ironic mask for a moment.
No,
you should get something out of this podcast other than insightful and incisive political analysis.
Yeah.
And just one-liners and bad riffs. Right?
It's true. Which is really what we're here for primarily, but occasionally there's a humanizing moment of like, here's just good life advice. Don't try and smash people who aren't already your Facebook friends because why aren't they?
Why aren't they?
Yeah.
Well, and with that wisdom, that's our show.
Yeah.
please give us a follow on social media. Twitter, TwinkRev, and Instagram, TwinkRev. But even more so, thank you to our guest.
Equally so. Oh, thank you.
No. I mean, you've done labor, and we must compensate you accordingly.
Yeah. I hope you'll untie me soon.
This is a socialist podcast. Yeah, the exploitation will end eventually. Remember, so David is One Thin Line on Twitter. You should follow him. He's amusing.
From time to time.
Yeah.
It happens.
Yeah, occasionally amusing.
Not through any effort on my part.
That's a review you can write on the back of the book. All right, well,
awesome.
And next week is going to be our spooky, scary Halloween episode.
Yeah, for all you spooky season lovers out there.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Sounds horrifying.
It's themed. Yeah, we'll be wearing costumes, which doesn't translate very well into podcast
right, well,
form.
Be sure to listen to it during daylight hours if you don't want to...
Yeah, it might be a little scary.
My goodness.
Awesome. Well, bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.